And we're going to talk a little bit about ex-president because he finally has been arrested. Fucking finally. It took them long enough. Now, we've been kind of talking about this over and over, and of course, everybody has been talking about this out there constantly, so there's not really much I can add as far as when it comes to actual news. You already know what's going on. If you've been following the story, you already know what's going on with Trump, right? I would like to add, though, that it's about goddamn time, you know? And I would also like to add that this stuff with Michael Cohen, remember, this happened 5 years ago. And that took them this long to pull the trigger on this. It took them 5 years. You know, Michael Cohen, right, for this, his role in this, he already got convicted, went to prison, and has been released. That's how long ago this shit has happened. And I'm thinking if they just wouldn't have been chicken shit, right, and if would have pulled the lever on Trump, the minute he got out of the White House, right, because it was already too late by the time they decided to get Michael Cohen after this, it was already too late. Trump was already president, right? And you're not going to arrest the president. Sorry, you're just not going to. You know, Even though in a perfect world they should, if the president, the sitting president, breaks the law, like anybody else, his ass should go to jail too. His ass should get arrested too, and the vice president should step in and take over. That's how it should work. That's what the fucking vice president is there for, right? But we have somehow our government has evolved since since the founding of the country, right? And we will never indict a sitting president, which is total fucking bullshit. I don't see. Here's the thing about that, right? There is no law or clause or anything, passage, anything like that in the Constitution that says that the president, a sitting president, is immune to criminal prosecution. Nothing like that at all, right? I really think that's a major fucking flaw. That if the president does something like that, because you know what that means, because right now there's an unwillingness that they won't indict a president. That means the president, a sitting president, can murder someone, and they wouldn't do anything about it, right? The worst they could do is they would have to use the 25th Amendment or something to like get rid of them or whatever, right? But there definitely should be a method. There should be a method that, hey, president breaks a law, if there's evidence, then you can invoke whatever rule. The vice president should take over as president while the main president, is like going through criminal proceedings. That should be a law that we have, right? And the fact that we don't have that law kind of shows, the direction that our country has gone over these past 200 years, right? Where nobody should have immunity over the law, right? So it kind of, like I said before, like I said this last time, Trump is sort of like the most privileged man on earth, right? Right now. I mean, he is at least the most privileged man in the United States by far. He's a billionaire, multi billionaire. Of course, if you believe him, he's a billionaire. I mean, who knows if he really is, right? He's a billionaire who is also an ex-president and is also the leading contender for the Republican nominee, right? So it is extremely highly unlikely that he will be convicted for this, right? I really don't think he's going to be convicted, which is bullshit because they kind of have him dead to rights, you know? They have him dead to rights here. I mean, Michael Cohen was convicted for this, right? The charges, if you haven't read, they released the charges, and it has to do with falsifying business records, which is illegal, right? Because you're not allowed to do shit like that. Now, like I said before, what Donald Trump did, what made it illegal was the way that he tried to pay for it. You know, if he just would have paid Stormy Daniels out of his pocket, out of his personal money, right? His personal accounts. If he just would have done that, then there wouldn't have been a problem at all. But that's not what he did. He tried to claim this as a business expense, right? And he had the Trump organization pay for it. And then he did it 2 weeks before an election, which amounts to an illegal campaign contribution, right? And you know why he wanted to do that? Why he had his business pay for it except for himself? Because he's a cheap bastard, right? Donald Trump, for someone who's a billionaire, certainly doesn't act like a billionaire. The guy is notorious for stiffing people. The guy's notorious for ripping people off, for not paying people, right? For being sued because he doesn't pay people. Notorious for that shit. And that's kind of what happened here. If he just would have, if he just would have paid for it, everybody would have been happy. They all would have shut the hell up, and he'd be a free man. Well, I guess he's a free man now, but, he wouldn't be facing a criminal trial at the moment, right? So anyway, apparently they decided to skip out on the mugshot, which is bullshit too, right? I kind of hope he got fingerprinted. They wouldn't allow any cameras inside or whatever. That would have been nice, But yeah, no Trump mugshot, which kind of also shows that, he's getting special treatment even now, right? I mean, obviously he didn't have to go in. He didn't have to, hang out in the fucking, general population or whatever in the jail, right? None of that stuff happened, And no mugshot. Who knows if they didn't handcuff him, any shit like that. Remember, if it was me or you folks, we would have had all the same, we would have had the mugshot. We would have been fingerprinted. They would have thrown us in the jail cell with all the other crazy, ridiculous thieves and pimps and murderers that they picked up that day. They didn't do that to Donald Trump, right? They didn't, make him wait fucking 3 days before they got a chance to, get him before a judge, and so that he could post bail or whatever the fuck, right? They didn't do that for him. For us, for you, for me, no. We'd be rotting in that jail for fucking, 5 days and shit, waiting for our chance to go, talk to the judge. In the meantime, we'd end up getting fired from our jobs, right? Because if you get arrested and you're stuck there for 3 or 4 days, right, then you can't go to work. You end up getting fired, right? That happens to people all the time, too. They end up missing a shift or whatever, and then they find out after they get out of jail that they don't have a job anymore, right? Donald Trump doesn't have to worry about any shit like that. As soon as he shows up, it's just an express right before a judge, and then he gets to go home and give a speech in fucking Mar-a-Lago the same night. So whenever you hear them screaming about how this is all so unfair and all this other shit, and how the Democrats have gone too far, and all this other crap, and it's unprecedented, just keep in mind, he's getting the best treatment you could possibly fucking get, right? He's not, no, he's not being, fingerprinted and handcuffed to a bench, and then, having a cop watch him while he takes a leak, and, getting a fucking body cavity search and all this other crap. No. None of that shit's happening. All right, it's not Donald Trump in Sing Sing. It's not Donald Trump in the big house. Okay, he's they're basically just fucking, they're treating him with kid gloves like crazy. Yes, sir, right away, sir. Also, remember, he's got the Secret Service protecting him. So even if he did get convicted of this, he's not going to jail. There's no way in hell Donald Trump would go to prison at all. Which, even though if he deserves it, he does deserve it. All right, don't get me wrong. He definitely deserves it. But even if they got him on all 34 counts, or 33, however many there are, there's either 33, 34 counts of falsifying records, right? And basically, financial fraud is what it is. If they got him on all those counts, he's still not going to prison, right? At most, it would be a house arrest kind of thing, right? And he would still get full Secret Service protection, right? So yeah, I don't want it. So that's the thing. In the coming days, when you hear, MAGA chuds and shit bitch and moan about this and scream how it's like, oh, they're persecuting the man and this is so unfair and the Democrats have gone too far. They're acting like communists. Just don't believe a goddamn word of that. It's complete, total fucking horseshit of the highest order. Donald Trump is being treated far, far, far better than he deserves, right? So, anyway, one thing I wanted to kind of show here was Marjorie Taylor Greene, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is an endless well of comedic potential, right? She's sort of like if Andy Kaufman were to like wear a wig and become a senator and sort of do like if Andy Kaufman faked his death and like came back as a senator and wanted to like be like a parody of a moral majority type, right? It would be Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's almost how ridiculous she is. She's like a parody of like, yeah, of like what a conservative should be. Just sort of one of those like conservative Karen types who is utterly fucking clueless, but not smart enough to understand how clueless they are. Like, she's sort of like the Dunning-Kruger effect in personified in the flesh. Right? Like, so dumb that she doesn't even understand how dumb she sounds and how grating her shit is. And, like, I don't know. So, anyway, Marjorie Taylor Greene has kind of lost her mind on Twitter here. I wanted to show you a couple of things. Let's move some stuff around so that I can demonstrate what we're showing here. Let's turn on my laptop. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene on Twitter. This is her official representative, Twitter account. Pray for our President Trump. Pray for our country. This is awful. Aw, so sad. This is awful. Yeah, 39,000 likes. Hey, there was a like live on the air as I'm making fun of it here. Cry, 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 Marjorie Taylor Greene. Aw, too bad. Here's another one of her. Let me see here. There was one that I wanted to show. Here we go. Marjorie Taylor Greene here. They don't have a Donald Trump. Democrats are so jealous they don't have a Donald Trump. They would give anything to have him, but they don't. They're like a jealous girl that got tossed to the side. They're blinded by hate and jealousy and will do anything to stop him because they can't have him. Psycho. Yeah, it kind of sounds like Marjorie Taylor Greene is a little butthurt there. Just a little crying in her soup there. Maybe she needs to get a fresh pair of diapers there. I really like this part, they're like a jealous girl that got tossed to the side part. I'm pretty sure she knows what that feels like. They're blinded by hate and jealousy. Here's the thing, folks, right? We do not have, she is correct. We do not have any politician on the left that has the same kind of cult of personality that Donald Trump has, right? And when I say that the devoted base that will just stick with him through everything. Donald Trump definitely has that, that 33%. You notice, like, the whole time he was president, his approval rating never got below 33%. It was like, I think maybe it hit 32 once, or I think it hit 29 once, and then it went right back up, right? But it hovered around that. It hovered around 32, 33% basically the entire time. And it didn't matter what he did. Every time, like, some ridiculous, stupid ass fucking shenanigan would happen, he'd threaten North Korea with nuclear war. And that didn't matter. He'd, like, lie about a storm, a hurricane, where it hit, and then, like, draw on a map with a Sharpie to try to pretend that, no, see, it really hit Florida. Like, or whatever the hell. Like, he'd just blatantly lie about that, and it didn't matter. He would do things like, Jared Kushner would take PPE, like, confiscate it from the states and then sell it off to the highest bidder during the middle of a pandemic. Like, that didn't fucking matter. It didn't really matter. You remember that shit? It didn't really matter. Just all of the fucking ridiculously idiotic, stupid, and illegal things they did through the entire Trump years. It just hung out at 33%. And it's because he has this unshakable base, because he has this cult of personality. You know, the Trump, the core base of Republicans. That's what they are, right? Remember, Republicans make up roughly 42% of the country, and so about 33% of the country, like, that's the hardcore Republican base, right? The other 12% of Republicans don't like his ass, right? And that's kind of why I don't think he'll win in this next election, because those are going to be the only people who are going to vote for him. Well, you can't win the election with 33% of the vote. It's just not possible. He's gonna get stomped again, like, worse than last time. At least that's what I think. I don't know. Hopefully I'm not wrong. But yeah, like, that's the thing. We don't have that on the left. There is no politician like Joe Biden doesn't fucking have that. Fuck no. People hate Joe Biden. Like, Democrats don't like Joe Biden at all. Joe Biden was the at least he's not Trump candidate. That's the only fucking reason Joe Biden won. You know, AOC doesn't have that. People like AOC, but no one is, like, jumping in front of a bullet for her ass. Nobody's, like, ready to fucking, like, chop off their own nuts for AOC or light themselves on fire. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if AOC broke the law, people would turn on her. They would tell her to get arrested. If Bernie Sanders is probably the closest there is. But even that, if Bernie Sanders said something racist, if Sanders broke the law, if they found him, like, cheating on his wife with a porn star and then getting his lawyer to pay it off, like, if something like that happened, Bernie Sanders, he'd be gone. People would be like, well, I really like him, but too bad. He's a scumbag. I'm not voting for him. And it's true, because people on the left, Democrats, Democrats and progressives and whatnot, and liberals and whatnot, they have this thing called integrity, right? We hold our people to a higher standard on the left. We simply do, right? That's just how it is. This is why only Democrats are vulnerable to being canceled. Do you ever notice that? You ever notice that? Matt Gaetz does shit that, like, should get his ass arrested, and he's absolutely fine, right? Al Franken, like, does a funny, he poses in a photo in a lewd way, and, like, ends up fucking resigning in shame. I mean, don't get me wrong, Al Franken should have resigned, but that's just an example. Imagine if Al Franken was a Republican. He'd still be in Congress right now, right? Because Republican politicians are immune to canceling, right? It's only they exactly when it comes from the left side, they are immune to it. The only thing that gets Republicans kicked is when they cross the Republican establishment, like Madison Cawthorn or something. That's the only time they're vulnerable to being canceled. But they're not vulnerable to being canceled, right? No, it's just not possible. In fact, it helps them when they piss people off, right? Democrats, it doesn't work that way. When Democrats piss people off, they lose. They end up resigning. Right? That's exactly what it is. When Democrats cheat on their wives, when they do, questionable things with minors, when they get found out, with underwear pics or whatever, stuff like that. When they get caught coming out of the closet, you know, they end up resigning. You know, when that happens to Republicans, as long as they're pissing off liberals, they're fine. They end up actually getting reelected, right? So she's true about that. She's correct about that. We do not have that on our side. We don't have a bulletproof figure like the same way that Trump is. Trump is like Superman when it comes to controversy. The shit just bounces right off. It'll never penetrate that 33%, and that's why he's going to become the nominee, and probably why he's going to lose the election. So, but are we jealous? I don't know if jealous is the word. I think I would like to see a little bit more of that kind of loyalty on the left. I really would like to see that more of that kind of loyalty, because we don't really have that either. There's not really a cohesive leftist movement, especially behind the Democratic Party. Fuck no, no. There's no cohesive leftist movement behind the Democratic Party. Not at all. You know, if there's anything, it's a begrudging movement where people are like, fine, I guess I gotta vote for Democrats. That's how they. But like, no, there's no. I would like to see, if I was running things, if I was in charge, if I died and became God, I would like to see a little bit more of a actual loyalty on the left. I would like to see more of an ability for the left to unite behind a candidate, for example. Right. Do whatever infighting you're going to do, squabble, whatever. But whenever the candidate emerges, I would like to see people on the left unite behind them for the greater good. That's a thing that just doesn't exist. So, anyway, there was another one here. Let's see. Here's another one from Marjorie Taylor Greene. The Democrat Party today is what happens in communist countries all over the world throughout history. They always start by trying to take out the leader of their opposition. Very funny. There's a video here, but I don't think I'm going to play it. I would just like to point out, because she says that, okay, they always start by trying to take out the leaders of their opposition, right? I would like to point out that the entire time Donald Trump was running for office, he would not shut up about wanting a desire to jail Hillary Clinton, right? That was the opponent that he was running against, the opponent that, should have won that election, that got the popular vote, and in any decently run country would have been the president, right? She was the favorite to win. I mean, I thought she was gonna fucking win, and he leaned into that shit extremely heavy. You know, lock her up became a chant on the right side. Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. Right? They still say that to this day. When Donald Trump goes, and the election was fucking 5 years ago. Hillary Clinton is like retired from public life. She does an interview now and then, but is she a senator? No. Right? Is she running for president again? Probably not. Right? You know, they still say that shit. Lock her up, lock her up. You know, right wingers and stuff, Trump supporters are still talking shit about Hillary Clinton. Like, all these fucking years later. So, I don't want to hear a goddamn word about that. Oh, start by trying to take out the leader of their opposition. That was like what he fucking ran on. It's it's like that's what I mean when I say like Marjorie Taylor Greene is like too fucking stupid to even realize what she's saying. She doesn't even understand what she's saying herself. It's like bitch, this is what you people were trying to do since fucking day one. Like, oh my god, absolutely fucking ridiculous. One more thing I do want to go and look at here, that there is a little bit of her talking to Charlie Kirk. And I hate to subject you guys to Charlie Kirk, but Harley Kirk, Charlie Burke here. But he is kind of one of the most vile of the pundits. Some of these guys, right, I would say are in it just for the money. Candace Owens, for example, I believe is in it just for the money. I believe that she just makes shit up that she thinks is inflammatory so that because she knows it'll make her a shitload of cash, right? Charlie Kirk, I think, is genuinely a piece of shit. And when I say genuinely a piece of shit, I really think that if he was in charge, he would hurt people, right? He's got that look. Something about him just rubs me like that. That if he had the ability, he would be rounding people up and shipping people away in fucking cattle cars off to gas chambers. There's just something about that that's sort of inept, like he has that blend of like suppressed rage and like pathetic ineptitude of someone who like hasn't had a loving relationship in decades and like probably has never like actually been with a woman that loved him his entire life. Like he's got that sort of look, like a sort of like someone who's just been masturbating for far too long. You know, like there's only so many times that you can like choke the chicken before it just starts hurting, and then like when you lose that, when that doesn't do it for you anymore, like then you become sort of wild. Like he looks like he's about to like he looks like someone who's about to go into a Starbucks and just start bitching out the barista, like because they forgot to put like an extra pump of vanilla in his fucking latte or something, and then like go home and just cry himself to sleep. Like so, Anyway, enough of that though. Let's see what Charlie Kirk and Marjorie Taylor Greene have to say. This is only about 5 minutes long, so I think we can suffer through it. Okay, let's get going here.
On the ground in New York. I'm told she's literally surrounded. She's on the phone joining us now. Marjorie, what's going on? Give us the update straight from the ground from East Germany, otherwise known as New York City. The floor is yours, Marjorie.
East Germany. East Germany, please. Get the fuck out of here. Where does that comparison come from? Like, what about New York is like East Germany? Like, I guess what? Like, I mean, when you see New York City, communist is not what comes to mind. I mean, if anything, New York City is like hyper capitalist. Like if it was communist, people would be able to afford a rent there, right? There'd be you know, state appointed housing if New York City was communist. So, you know, Charlie Kirk doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Moving on.
Hi, Charlie. We just had to pull away. The car was surrounded by people there. We had a large counter protest behind the car. They were bumping the car and so forth. So we had to pull away. It's a chaotic scene down there. It is unbelievable. People, just horrible people who have totally bought into this witch hunt, and the political persecution of President Trump is outrageous. It's there's almost no words.
Political persecution. Aw, too bad. So sad, Marjorie. Aw. She's angry because there were nasty people there who didn't agree with her. You know, I mean, that's called the First Amendment, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Maybe you ought to think like, hey, this is Donald Trump's hometown. Why do people hate his ass so much in the town that he's from? Maybe you ought to think about that. Maybe it's because they've lived with this guy for fucking like, decades and decades. Maybe they know what it's like when people interact with him. Maybe they're tired of getting ripped off and scammed by him. You know, that could be a reason, right? Maybe it's because he made their entire city look bad by being the worst fucking president of all time. Gotta think about that. You know, I don't know. That's just, Oh, it's such sad thing. These people have gone into the witch hunt. Yeah, whatever. Let's continue on.
You can't even describe it. But there's also a lot of supporters and protesters for President Trump on the ground. They may not be wearing MAGA hats or wearing plain clothes, but they are standing out there supporting President Trump.
They're wearing plain clothes. It's almost like you can't see them. You know, they might not be wearing MAGA hats. They're wearing plain clothes. You know, it's like they're hidden. They're undercover. It's almost like they're not there. So I've got another video that I want to watch after this that you can actually see the crowd of people there. Yeah, not much in the way of Trump supporters. There's something like 10 Trump supporters and then like 500 journalists and then like maybe another like 300 anti-supporters, like, you know, Trump protesters there, like anti-Trump supporters there, but no. Yeah, there was not I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is in denial over actually what just happened, what she just witnessed. We'll see a little bit more in a few minutes.
Trump.
So, Congresswoman Greene, how should we respond to this? What should be the Republican response? We've called for indictments and subpoenas and handcuffs and perp walks for major Democrats across the country because now that they've crossed the Rubicon on this sad and tragic and disgusting day against our republic, how should we respond to this?
So, just that, I want to kind of comment on that loaded ass question there. So, he just said, right, we've called for perp walks and handcuffs and prosecutions and stuff of Democrats, right? Well, first off, I want to say, do you have any evidence of prominent Democrats breaking the law? Yes or no? Because if you have evidence of prominent Democrats breaking the law, let's please arrest them. Let's do it. Right? Because that's the thing. We people on the left, the Democrats on the left, right? We don't care about them. Right? We care about the rule of law. And if somebody like, say, Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or AOC or anybody else breaks the law, then they should go to jail. Right? I mean, I'm sure Charlie fucking Kirk would agree with that, right? So why is he saying it like this? He said basically in response to this because the Democrats crossed the Rubicon. Why did he say that? Because the law to him doesn't actually matter. The only thing that matters to him is politics. Right? Because to him, like all fascists, the law is just a tool to enforce your will on somebody else. It's just a tool to dominate your enemies with. Right? That's what he's saying, you know. Never mind, you know, fuck what if it's actually true or not. Fuck if they actually, like, you know, it doesn't matter if they actually, like, broke the law or whatever. It doesn't matter if, like, they're guilty or if you have any evidence of it. He's just calling for arrests. If you don't have any evidence that somebody broke the law, then you can't arrest them. Or you can arrest them, but then once they get out of jail, you know, because you don't have any evidence, you'll look like a fool. And that's why they don't do that. That's why the police don't just arrest people for no fucking reason. I mean, at least when it comes to politicians, you know. They arrest normal, ordinary people all the time for dumb shit reasons. And then drop the charges. And it's like, hey, you're free to go. Doesn't matter. But not when you're a politician. No, when you're a politician, you gotta have evidence, right? Prominent, the more important the politician you are, the more evidence you gotta have. So that's, you know, just wanted to point that out there. You know, he's not actually thinking about justice. He's not thinking about the rule of law or anything like that. He doesn't, because he doesn't give a fuck about any of that. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't give a fuck about any of that either. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about any of that either, right? Because these people are fucking fascists. Moving on.
Our response is we should not be intimidated. We should not live in fear. This is the United States of America. We are a nation of laws. We have to take our country back. The Democrat Party has shown us the true communist colors today. We are seeing it right now. And this is something that people have to realize once this line is crossed.
All right, let's move on a little bit more.
This is what happens in communist countries all over the world and throughout history. First, they go after the leader of their opposition, and that's what they're doing today. They're arresting President Trump. Then after they remove the leader, they go after the people. And President Trump is the only one standing in the way.
All right. So who the fuck is this they that she's talking about, right? I mean, she's trying to claim that this is all like the Democrats, I guess, right? I'm supposing that's who she means the they in this is. Like Joe Biden, is he the they in this? Is he in charge of this, right? I said this in the last video, and I'll say it again. Is there any evidence at all of coordination between the White House and the district attorney's office in New York, right? Are there any phone calls between these people, right? Emails? Are the White House lawyers flying down to New York in order to coordinate with Alvin Bragg, right? Is Alvin Bragg meeting with, is he taking meetings with Joe Biden, right? Because if he is, that is an impeachable offense, right? Because it is illegal to use the law like that in order to prosecute your political enemies for no fucking reason without evidence, right? And it is also not, it is also illegal for the president of the United States to interfere in a local like city's, DA office and like direct an investigation. There's no he doesn't have, the president could go down there and order them to do all the shit that they want. They're under no obligation to follow what he says because the president is not in charge of the New York DA, right? That's just not a thing. It's not a thing that I mean, technically, if the president were to come to you and order you to do something, you could tell him to go fuck himself. You don't have to do what the president tells you. It's like, no. Right? And the president's not allowed to give people orders like that. It's like, no. Get the fuck out of here. Like if the president showed up in a restaurant and said, give me a sandwich, you could be like, no, this is my restaurant, fuck you. Get out of my restaurant. I don't want to serve your ass. Right? If the president shows up at your job, if you're a cop, the president shows up and says, hey, give that guy a ticket. What did he do? I don't know, just give him a ticket. Fuck you, no. Right? That's not how it works, These people, that's the thing. It's like the accusation, if you just think about the accusation for 2 fucking seconds, it doesn't make any sense. Who in the Democratic Party coordinated this? Just tell me. Who was it? Was it so it wasn't Donald Trump? Or was it? It wasn't Joe Biden. Excuse me. Right. So who was it exactly? Was it Nancy Pelosi? Was it AOC? Was it Chuck Schumer? Right. Was it? Who the hell was it? Who's given Alvin Bragg orders? Right. Nobody, because they're making it up because it doesn't have any fucking basis in rational fucking reality. Right? But that's the thing about conspiracy theories, folks. They don't have to have any proof. There doesn't have to be any proof at all of coordination between the White House and Alvin Bragg. And I'm saying this because I'm already seeing this conspiracy theory pop up all over the place. On Reddit, on YouTube, on Facebook, out on fucking all the different places where you see these types of idiotic conspiracy theories develop. I'm already seeing it. Across all of the stupid, ridiculous right-wing Twitter ripoffs like Getter and all those other ones, and Fapper and shit like that. Seeing this conspiracy theory pop up, and it's like no one even questions it. No one even thinks about what it would actually mean if it were true, or what has to be true in order for it to like actually have legs, right? It doesn't have. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be true. There doesn't have to be evidence. They just have to say it over and over and over, and then people will now believe until the end of time that Joe Biden himself personally directed Alvin Bragg to go arrest Trump. It's the dumbest fucking shit ever. Moving on.
We aren't the party of violence. We aren't the party that breaks the laws. The Democrats are. And they are completely corrupting.
We're not the party that breaks the law. Yeah, you remember? You know, I it's almost she's in denial. You know, did you hear that? Let's rewind that just a little bit more. Okay, just like 5 seconds.
Way. We aren't the party of violence. We aren't the party that breaks the laws. The Democrats are. And they are completely corrupting the justice system.
It's like she has to say that almost to herself because she doesn't believe it. Whoa, that was my dog. My dog is trying to get into the room here. I should probably let him in. I mean, first off, because when you think, okay, you think Republican violence, I think January 6th, right? But that's not, January 6th wasn't the first time we saw Republican violence, Republicans have a way of showing up to protests armed, right? Well, when you're armed at a protest, folks, that is no longer a peaceful protest. Okay. What makes a peaceful protest peaceful is the fact that you cannot use lethal force, that you can't hurt anybody, right? And that you don't hurt anybody, and that sometimes when a protest, when people start hurting each other, it's no longer a protest, it turns into a riot, and then it's no longer legitimate, right? And that's why you get things like police officers and stuff like agent provocateurs. Like, remember all those videos during Black Lives Matter of cops going around slashing people's tires? Remember stuff like that? Remember those videos? Like, there was another one of a guy that went and smashed up a bunch of windows at a Pep Boys, and then there was this like little dude with a pizza following him around trying to like get him to talk. Turned out that guy was a cop. Remember that video, right? Other videos where they would like deliver pallets of bricks, and then like right where the protest was going to be, it's like, what is this big ass pallet of bricks here? There's like no construction going on. It just happens to be these bait bricks hanging out. Remember stuff like that, right? Because if you can get the people at your protest to suddenly turn violent, then that means that police are justified in shutting down the protest, right? Well, if you show up already to the protest with a bunch of guns, then guess what? That protest is not peaceful to begin with. You're already using force. Some people may disagree with me on this, but I don't think so. Right? This is just my opinion. Some people would say, well, as long as I don't use the guns, that means it's still peaceful. I don't think so. I think the implicit threat of violence is still violence. Right? So when, say, the Republicans show up at the Michigan State House, take it over, armed, right? Is that a peaceful protest? When they show up at the, at the Bundy Ranch or whatever, the Bundy Ranch standoff, was that a peaceful protest, right? When they took over the Oregon, wildlife refuge or whatever, was that a peaceful protest? No. Okay. That's the thing with conservatives and Republicans. Violence is the default for these people. They immediately jump to violence, right? Peaceful protest is not in a conservative's fucking vocabulary. So she says, we're the peaceful protests. It's like, get the fuck out of here. It's like she has to say it to herself just so she'll believe it. You know what I mean? Dumb as fucking shit. And then as far as like, we obey the law. Yeah, right. I will take the Pepsi challenge any day of the fucking week with, conservative Republican corruption versus like Democrat liberal corruption. Don't get me wrong. There's lots and lots and lots of corrupt politicians on the Democratic side too. I'm not saying there isn't. Nancy Pelosi comes to mind. She's made herself quite a few $1 million, multiple $1 million with insider trading, right? But it seems like the Republicans and the conservatives have brought corruption to a high art form, right? And I'll take the Pepsi challenge for that shit any day of the fucking week. You know what I mean? Like, I think I will be able to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that the Republicans are masters of corruption. Like the Democrats are they're the junior party. They kind of always have been the junior party, right? Because some of them actually give a shit about people. That's the reason why Democrats are the junior party. That's the reason why they're not in control of everything. That's the reason why, Republicans can lose the election and lose both houses of Congress and still fucking run everything. Right. Still, isn't that funny? Isn't it funny how, the Republicans are like they lose the presidency, they lose both houses of Congress, yet they still seem to be in charge of fucking everything? How does that shit happen, right? Because they are blatantly corrupt to the fucking core in a way that you just don't see with any other political party. Moving on.
They are coordinating, the Biden regime, Department of Justice is coordinating with the Manhattan DA to bring these fake charges against President Trump, who is innocent. He is the.
You have any evidence of that, Marjorie? You just made a pretty big accusation right there that the Biden Justice Department is coordinating with the DA in New York in order to nail Trump on trumped up charges. Right? So, do you have any evidence of that? Are you going to be making an expose? Are you going to do some congressional hearings where you expose the evidence of this? Right? Because if you have it, let's see it. If you have the evidence of that, please show us so that we can impeach Joe Biden, right? If they produce evidence of this, right? This is the conspiracy theory. She's laying it out for us. If they produce evidence of this, I will be behind it 100% of the way, right? I mean, let's fucking hear it. Don't just say it on Charlie Kirk's fucking TV show. You're a senator, for fuck's sake. Or House rep, I guess, right? Same fucking thing. You're in Congress, right? You're in Congress, and not only that, but you actually have power now. They put you on committees and shit. You have the ability to fucking do something. So let's see your evidence, Marjorie. Right?
The most vetted man in American history. I want you to think about that. The most vetted man. He has been vetted for years. This is a lie, and this is a witch hunt, and Americans all over the country need to use their First Amendment speech. They need to be protesting.
Yeah, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. If it was a lie, then that means that Michael Cohen is owed lots of... Michael Cohen went to prison for nothing then, if this is a lie. If Donald Trump is innocent of this, then that means Michael Cohen was wrongfully imprisoned. So that means the government owes Michael Cohen millions and millions of dollars for wrongful imprisonment, right? So which one is it, right? Did Michael Cohen go to jail because he broke the law, or is Donald Trump innocent? It's one of those two, right? Which one fucking is it? Right? I mean, can't have it both ways.
Need to not be silent, but most of all, do not be afraid. We have nothing to fear, and we cannot be intimidated by these communist Democrats.
Communist.
Eric Adams name-checked you yesterday.
If only we had actual communists. There are 0 communist Democrats. 0. In government, currently elected in our government. pretty much. I mean, I would even go so far to say even in all of the state governments as well, there are zero communists. There are zero Democrats who believe in communism, right? That's just not a thing that exists, right? I don't know. Are there? Are there some? Please tell me who they are, because I would like to read up about them if there are. I can pretty much guarantee there fucking are. It's just the dumbest shit. The thing is, she just says that because that's like a trigger word that triggers the right wing base, and they go, "Goddamn commies!" You know, they've been trained after like decades and decades of equating communism with Satan and evil, right? And I'm not kidding when I say Satan, like literally equating communism with Satanism. Like I'm not. It's not a joke. That's something that's been in the American right wing consciousness for since the fucking Cold War, for fuck's sake, right? She doesn't even know what communism fucking is. I mean, did Marjorie Taylor Greene, didn't she like coin the term corporate communism or whatever? Like, that's a fucking oxymoron if I ever heard one. Dumbest fucking shit ever. Moving on.
Yesterday, the mayor of New York, who can't keep violent crime under control, called you a rabble-rouser and a troublemaker. I want you to respond to this. Let's play cut 30 and then please respond.
While there may be some rabble-rousers, control yourselves.
Alright, enough of this shit. This is fucking getting old. Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.